let's talk about that feeling. I think you know the one I'm talking about. The one where you have these huge ambitions, these big dreams, but for whatever reason, you just can't get yourself to act on them. You've probably called yourself lazy, but what if that's not it at all? What if it's something completely different? So does this hit close to home? You have this crystal clear vision for your life. You know exactly what you need to do to get where you want to go. Finish that big project, start that side hustle, finally get in shape. You know you're smart, you know you're capable. And yet, you just don't do the thing. And that's where the guilt kicks in, right? That nagging little voice in your head going, I should be doing more. It's this heavy, heavy weight. And it's mostly there because deep down, you know you have the potential. And when you don't act on it, man, that guilt just starts to stack up day after day. And the worst part, it's not just a bad day. It's this vicious cycle. The guilt from today just rolls right into next week. And then before you know it, a month has gone by. And that's when you start to actually believe it. That's when you stick that label on yourself. I'm just lazy. And then, of course, the classic New Year's resolution. You write down the exact same goals, you're filled with hope, and then, bam, the cycle starts all over again. Okay, but what if that whole lazy thing is just wrong? Like, completely off the mark? What if this isn't about some flaw in your character, but about a fundamental law of the universe? Seriously, let's reframe this whole thing, because the answer might be hiding in, of all places, your old high school physics class. You probably remember this one, right? Newton's first law of motion, inertia. It's basically just the idea that things want to keep doing whatever they're already doing. An object at rest stays at rest. An object in motion stays in motion. Think of a giant boulder. It's super hard to get it rolling, but once it's going, it's pretty hard to stop. Simple enough when we're talking about rocks. Well, here's the kicker. That law, it doesn't just work on boulders. It works on your brain. Think about it. When your brain is at rest, and let's be honest, that's usually scrolling on your phone, it wants to stay at rest. That right there is mental inertia. So, to get started on anything, you need this little burst of what's called activation energy to break out of that inertia. But here's the problem. Our brains are kind of drama queens. They look at that initial push and blow it up into this massive, impossible effort. We see the entire mountain we have to climb, not just the first step. And it's just too much. It's overwhelming. So what do? We retreat to something easy, something that gives us that quick dopamine hit, just to avoid that feeling of effort. So if the problem is basically physics, then the solution has to be physics too, right? The real question becomes, how in the world do we generate that little bit of activation energy without completely draining our batteries before we even start? And this is the whole secret. You stop trying to fight inertia head on. No more brute force. No more just trying harder. Because we all know that's exhausting and it just doesn't last. Instead, you get clever. You trick it. You make the act of starting so ridiculously easy that it feels like it takes almost zero effort. See, we build this huge wall of inertia when we look at the giant task. The thought, I have to finish a 5,000-word paper. It's just paralyzing. But what if you changed the goal? What if the goal wasn't to finish the paper, but just to start it? The energy it takes to write, say, just 50 words, or to tidy your room for the length of one single song, that's tiny. Anybody can do that. There's actually a really popular technique for this. It's called the 2-minute rule. And it is so simple. You just pick that one thing you've been putting off. Then you promise yourself you'll do it for only 2 minutes. That's the whole deal. And you have to give yourself total permission to stop the instant that 2-minute timer goes off. But here's the magic trick. You almost never actually stop. Why? Because getting started was the hardest part. Once you're 2 minutes in, you've already done the impossible. You've broken through that inertia. And this brings us right back to Newton's law. An object in motion tends to stay in motion. That simple act of starting is all it takes to build momentum. Getting that boulder rolling was the uphill battle. But now you're in motion. Now it's downhill. And that momentum is what carries you way past those first 2 minutes. You know, Martin Luther King Jr. said it perfectly. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. And that's really what this is all about. We procrastinate because we're staring up at this huge, scary staircase. But you don't magically appear at the top. The only way up is to focus all your energy on that one single, totally doable action, taking that first step. So I'll just leave you with this thought. The next time you feel that lazy feeling creeping in, try to reframe it. Tell yourself, I'm not lazy, I'm just an object at rest. And then ask yourself this: what if that giant, impossible gap between where you are and where you want to be isn't a gap of motivation or talent or willpower at all? What if it's just 2 minutes wide?